Well, the Hill Country flooding catastrophe is a harsh reminder when severe weather strikes, getting timely alerts and taking action can save lives.
But in rural areas or during power outages, staying connected isn't always guaranteed. And for this reason, experts recommend keeping a weather radio on hand. Victor Jacobo shows us how they work.
Observations at Houston Bush Intercontinental, partly sunny.
NOAA weather radios are much more than just a radio. These devices are tuned to a continuous feed of information from the National Weather Service, sharing forecasts and warnings. I found multiple types of weather radios readily available at local camping and sporting goods stores in Houston.
One of the most important things about an emergency situation is having multiple ways to receive information.
Today, I spoke with Brian Murray, the Deputy Emergency Management Coordinator for Harris County, about the value and importance of weather radios.
Where this has some advantages to keep you safe.
So where it really comes in handy is those situations where we lose power.
While it's too early to tell what exact tools the victims in the Hill Country had at their disposal, Murray says the radios can play a critical role year-round in different weather emergencies, especially when information on phones or computers is not easily accessible, like in a power outage or if you're in a remote location.
After the derecho and after Beryl last year, we had some areas where the cell phone towers, even though they have backup generators, they don't last forever necessarily. So the weather radios was still the one thing that was still operating that you could get information through.
Murray says receiving information is valuable, but a plan to act on that information is just as important.
If an alert tells you that you need to seek higher ground, do you have a plan to do that? Where will you go? These are things that are important to think about beforehand.
Such an important tool. I remember them from all the way back Hurricane Alicia growing up here in Houston.
You know, Murray was telling me that he remembers Hurricane Alicia and that he had a radio when back in those days. So I have a couple right here. There's different ones for different situations. This one's a little more mobile. You can crank it up a little bit, so in case you don't have any batteries, that'll give you some battery life there. This one over here, this white one, can kind of be hooked up more to your home. You can also program these so that the radio is not on the whole time. You can program it so once you do get those alerts, it is able to alert you. But you know what he told me, as well as we've learned over the past few days, is that this is just one part of preparedness and readiness, that once you do receive this information, to have that plan to be able to act. And so can't recommend this enough.
That should be in everybody's hurricane kit.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Victor.
Yeah, and we talk, I just want to, we talk all the time about hurricanes, but look at the severe weather that we get here in Houston. We get ice storms, we get derechos.
No named storm attached to it.
No named storms, exactly. And things that really you don't have, with a hurricane, I think we're lulled in this sense of security of, well, I got a couple days to put a kit together. But when you've got a flash flooding situation, you got a derecho, I mean, those come with minutes of warning. So it's just like, we can't emphasize how crucial it is to have this stuff ready, so that when you do run into a situation where it's just minutes to spare, you're not scrambling. And these weather radios have really, you talk about, back Hurricane Alicia, or I remember growing up with the weather radios, we've really fallen out of using these because cell phones now go off with certain alerts, with life-threatening alerts. But these weather radios, they don't rely on cell phone signal. And so you don't need, especially if you're in an area where cell phone coverage isn't great, these are so crucial to have. So these are just some of the things to put in your kit: batteries, first aid, can opener with canned food. I mean, look, you got food, how are you gonna open it without a can opener? Whistle, tools, cash, water. But again, it's the weather radio that we really wanna focus on, because this can save lives in the middle of the night, even for us here in Southeast Texas with flash flooding and with tornadoes. There's been a lot of questions about the timeline with, how this flooding happened and when those warnings came out. And, there was an idea that there would be a flooding setup about 12 hours before the actual event started. So 1 o'clock Thursday afternoon, a flood watch was issued. That's basically the Weather Service saying, just a heads up, the situation may warrant some warnings down the road, but there's a situation coming where we may see some flooding across the area. And once we got to Thursday evening, that's when the high resolution data started to come in, and those alarm bells really started to go off, and they said, okay, we're going to put out a special discussion about this potential for flash flooding. That first warning came in just after 1 a.m., and this is the important part. At 1:14, flash flood warning issued for Kerr County, but it was added with a considerable tag. And all that means for you at home is that instead of just being a regular flash flood warning, this is one that would have triggered those cell phone alerts in the middle of the night, waking you up. Some folks have them turned on, some folks don't. You know what you don't have to worry about that with? A weather radio. 3 hours later, it gets upgraded to a flash flood emergency, and then 17 minutes after that, the Guadalupe River reaches major flood stage. So that timeline very important here in the days and the weeks after, once the recovery efforts are finished. But just important things to know for us Houstonians. We deal with severe weather all the time. Have that kit ready to go.